You ready to do this thing?
Let's get into it. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sweaty Casuals, brought to you by the Snowflake Sanctuary Discord server. This is a podcast where we usually talk about the games that we love to play, from the state of ranked systems to the newest sensations and everything in between. My name is Nox, and along with my co-host Zach, we will be your guides as we traverse ELO hell. A small reminder, we do swear, so viewer discretion is advised. Today we're joined by Paradox Muse, who can talk endlessly about the joys of formulas in Excel. He'll be helping us discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly about ELOs, MMR, and ranked systems. So to kind of start off our discussion tonight, I want to talk about everyone's favorite ranking system that they either have seen or have played within.
I'm gonna surprise Nox here. My favorite's Apex.
You stole my answer.
I think Apex does it really, really well.
I think Apex has gotten better.
Yes, and I know you and I had a big talk because when I started playing, they had gone to LP, and you didn't like that change, and it was a very different game at that point. And they've gone back to RP, but they've taken some of the LP things with it. But I think it works to the benefit of the game.
Mm-hmm. Well, because we have the same answer, I'll go real quick and give you a second. I also like Apex's ranked system. I think it rewards the gameplay that is truly good. I think a couple seasons ago, we were struggling with everyone, no matter if you were rookie, bronze, silver, gold, up into, I'm assuming, Pred, you started the game minus 40 as a buy-in. Which that's a standard in Apex. When you enter a game, the higher you go, the more you pay in. But the problem was down in bronze. The idea is that you have a lower buy-in so that it's easier to climb out of your rank. And then you start plateauing eventually. You really do. Because that buy-in gets higher. So since they've changed it back to per what rank you're in, it depends. It then decides how much you buy in. I've really enjoyed it. I mean, when you're down in bronze, you start the game at 0. So as long as you go be active in the game, like, yes, you can still rat it out and stay at the edge of ring and not fight anyone and take third with no kills and you're plus 60 for the game. But when you get up into silver and gold and now you're minus 40 to start the game and you still try to do those rat tactics, you're not going to climb. You're stuck. I also think changes to the game, like the Evo shields, have added to that. It encourages hyper gameplay and more mobility and moving around the map. So I think the rank system going back to the way it was and the changes to the game have created a really enjoyable rank system that even I've noticed. You drop hot. I'm in silver right now. I'm almost into gold. You drop hot, you clear a team, and then you get third party. Like, yeah, that sucks, but you're still plus 10.
Punished. Yeah.
You're still plus 10 on the game.
So when I started, it was the LP. You only got points for your placement. You didn't get points for elimination, if I recall. And I think
you did, but they were so
it was negligible,
abysmal compared to what you were getting for placement. You were much better off ratting to 5 and then trying to get kills than dropping hot, clearing a team. Like, there was nothing to push active gameplay. So I think since those changes and going back to what it was, I think it's become a really enjoyable rank system.
Paradox. Sorry.
No, so this gave me a lot of time because I was even trying to think of a good rank system. And my visceral gut reaction was Chess's ELO system, just because of how common it is, or like just how quintessential it is. It's been used for a lot of different games at this point. Also, it just works really, really well because it's a one-on-one system, so it makes sense. And with the advent of chess.com, more people could actually kind of like see what a true ELO system looked like. But then I was like, that's kind of a boring answer. So I'm going to say the system I made to rank players in a league I was running for Pokemon Go. I made an ELO system where everybody started at 1,000 and then you went up or down based on, wins, losses to the other individuals, always losing a specific percentage, unless the percentage gap was high enough, and then you would lose basically more or less percent. And it worked really well, and I think that's the best one. So, pound on the back for myself.
Give me a second. I'm going to go open that spreadsheet again.
Yeah, right?
Right. I want to see this. I don't think I've ever seen this one.
Because there's that one, and then I was thinking of the one that we did for Pixelmon as well.
Our Pixelmon one was we had some work on that one. We had a very small player base.
But yeah, that was the issue, was the minuscule player base, whereas mine for Pokemon Go eventually hit about 100 people. So
yeah, where you can actually start to yeah. It's funny though that you bring up chess.com so quickly, because chess has had an ELO system for a long time. But that one does work so well. But I think it's mostly because you're judging player versus player. There's no coordination factor, there's no other factor in there. It's just, does this player, if you look at raw numbers and nothing else, no luck factor, does this player beat this player?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's what, at its core, that's what makes creating an ELO system for something like Overwatch incredibly difficult. Like, if you want to jump to that, any team-based game, MOBAs, shooters, whatever you want to put into that category, because you have 5 players doing 5 different things, how do you fairly create that ELO?
Before we completely depart on it, Paradox, your ELO system, does it happen to be based off of the one-off Pokemon Showdown?
No, it wasn't actually based off of Pokemon Showdown at first, and then I ended up basically moving to more of a Pokemon Showdown one. That's where, I think the only thing that was based on it was the 1,000 starting mark, because I like that. That was okay, you need a place to start and everything. And I know that eventually I did have to go back and edit it to implement a 10-game baseline on top of it too, because I had somebody who came in as a new player, but they were coming into the system as a new player. They clearly had, some experience, and they were beating people that was really, really high up, and the people that were in the 3,000 ELO rating at that time were losing a lot of ELO because they were losing to this person who was a newbie, right? So I know I then had to generate, if it's within the first 10 games of a new player coming in, then there's ELO protection at the top and there's ELO protection more at the bottom. But if they end up beating that player, then they would gain a lot, versus if they were losing to that player, they would lose even less. So, but those types of systems, they work really well because, again, in Pokemon Go, it's a one-on-one game when you're battling.
Pokemon Showdown, it's one-on-one. Chess,
it's one-on-one.
One-on-one.
Exactly. When we look at these team-based games, as was already alluded to, you're working with 5 other people, and you have to rely on those 5 people to where, in a game like Overwatch, that if your tank is bad, you probably just lose the game. It does come down to tank diff. But in a game like League of Legends, where there are a lot of roles that have specific carry potential, like a jungler, you can play a carry jungler, carry top, carry, pretty much every role can carry. Support, not as much in that game.
Don't shit on my Lux. My Lux can carry.
Again, and that was going to be the exception, is the Luxes and the Brands, the big mages that can actually play support for those games. But I know I was always given the saying that in any sort of team-based game, 30% of the games you won't win. 30% of the games you'll just win without doing anything. And it's how you perform in those 40% of the games that actually matters, even though it's less than 50% of the games that you're going to be playing.
I think that's a pretty accurate way to describe it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the reasons why Apex also feels so good is like, even though you are a 3-man squad and having a good squad makes a huge difference. Don't get us wrong. You can carry. That is an option. Ratting works. I've been in matches where I'm with somebody who I don't know what the heck they're on, but they just are walking through squads. Nox, I've been in some of those matches with you. We're both down.
Well, and that's probably gonna come up later in the fact that I think one of the flaws with Apex, and it could be a flaw or it could be a positive depending on the way that you look at it, because if you compare it to something like Overwatch, it's actually a good thing. It's the fact that in most seasons, everyone gets reset to 0. So you have Pred players in bronze lobbies for the first week until it takes them 6 games to get out to gold. So
week 1's rough.
Week 1 is always rough, but if you get that Pred player that's solo queuing on your team, like there was a match I played with Zach where our teammate had 3,000 damage and 10 kills. And we had probably 1 or 2 apiece with some assists and did 300 damage and we won the game. It's good for some of us that get lucky, but if you're the squad on the other side of that, good luck. None of us in silver can tap strafe. Like, there's just no way.
In Apex, because Apex is a game that I played very sparingly. There was like a 2 weeks standpoint where I was like, yeah, this is a cool game and playing it a lot, and then I dropped it. But is there, when they do the rank reset, is there, if I'm in Predator and then somebody else is in Bronze, and that bronze, and we're on the same team and we end up winning, right? Let's say we end up winning the lobby. Is the Predator going to gain like 1,000 rank points and the Bronze is only going to gain like 20 because of previous rank season?
So
it's not that much. It's based on.
This is another reason that I like the Apex rank system, because placement does award you points. If you have 2 people on your squad that do everything and you just sit in a corner fumbling like an idiot, you will still gain points for taking first, for taking second. I believe there was a game today, I'm in silver, like I said. We took 3rd. I did abysmally. I did the equivalent of nothing. I gained 40 points. Now, my teammates that have 10 kills and revived me and were active within the game are going to get points for that. They're going to get points for the fact that they got a kill. I don't know. I know in past seasons there's been, was it skill points that you would gain depending on what you did in the game? I don't know if that's a thing anymore. I don't think it is. I think it's on assists and kills. But
I believe it's only on eliminations, because I know it's not on Nox. However, the one thing that is really nice about it, and I think it's one of the reasons why Apex works so well, is that yes, you get points for eliminations, but you get more of them the better you place. So if you place 12th, I think you only get 1 point per elimination, or like 2 points.
I think it's a round number. So it's you usually maybe not.
It's very low.
Thought it was 5.
When you start getting into like top 5, it's like, no, you get like 5 points, you get 10 points, you get 20 points per elimination. But then in addition to that, it also caps it. So you can only get up to 5 eliminations worth of points. You can get more eliminations in the game, it just won't give you any points for that. So you can have that one game where somebody's completely popping off. If they've got the greatest match of their life, that's great. They're still not going to like scream up in the rankings for it.
But the player that got 12 kills, even if they're only counted for 5 when I did nothing and we won, they're still getting 300, 400 points compared to my 80. And that's why people that are Pred level, Masters level, that are sitting in Bronze to start a season, it only takes them like a couple days. If they're playing pretty heavily, even faster. if you can get in now, granted, there's still that cap of a pred player is now on a, let's say they're solo queuing, they're on a team with 2 true bronzes. It's going to be harder to carry because there is an element of having a good team being able to push and all of that, but you still skyrocket way faster than everybody else in the lobby.
Interesting. Because that's what I was curious about. Like if a person who was Predator last season, and why would you ever name your top ranked Predator?
It's so rough in this. It's so rough, dude.
I'm switching to that gear. Like, I don't want to say the word Predator. It's so bad.
I really only call it pred. I just call it pred.
I know, but like, anyways, that's my small tangent. Like, why would you ever do that to your game? You know. Anyways,
side comment real quick. We've been making
because it makes so many good jokes.
Of course it does. You're a Predator. Like, come on.
Foon, who's been on the show before with Foon 2, her significant other. Foon 2 is or used to be, he says. I think he's probably still pretty good at the game. An exceptional console player on Apex and has been Predator in the past. So we make jokes all the time if he's around to go, Foon 2, are you a Predator?
Yeah. Like,
are you a Predator? Like, I should
so
stop yelling this so loud on a college campus, but good God.
Exactly. Anyways, that small tangent. Like, anyways, if you have somebody who was Predator last season and you have somebody who was Bronze last season, and let's say, I don't know, the stars align, Jupiter gets I don't know. Anyways,
Mercury's not in retrograde. We're having
that's
a good
the word
day.
I was looking for, in retrograde, whatever it was. But the Bronze and the Predator player end up doing like the exact same in the game. Would the Predator gain more ELO? See, that's an interesting system, because it's still like, I guess, I mean, it would still reward the Bronze player more than it would reward the player for doing well in a previous season. I think there still needs to be, in a ranking system, like a good ranking system, rewarding somebody who did well in a previous season, especially early on, if you want to bring them out of those games earlier. In Hearthstone, and then I know I see, Zach, you want to say something, but one thing I really like about Hearthstone is the higher you place in their seasons are once a month, so their seasons are fast, right?
Fast, yep.
At the beginning of each month, everybody does get reset to Bronze 10, and then you climb your way up. But if you hit Legend, every time basically the rank that you got in the previous season, you get so many extra stars or like points that helps you rank up faster. So if you were Legend last season, you can get up as many as 14 stars for a win. So you get one win at Bronze 10 if you were Legend last season, and you instantly go up to like Bronze 3, right? And then each of the medaled divisions have 10 ranks within them. So Bronze 10 through 1, Silver 10 through 1, Gold 10 through 1, Plat, Diamond, and then you hit Legend, which is their equivalency, where you then are just given a rank. You are 2,612, right? I kind of like that system, but I understand having everybody go back to 0 is still important for a ranked game and a good ranking system.
I think the one thing that I'll just touch on really briefly that it helps with is account selling. Just straight up. Like, I don't think I hear about it ever being a problem in Apex. Like, what are you going to get out of it? Cosmetics. Whereas we still talk about it in Overwatch, because once you get in an ELO, it's really hard to get out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the ranking up faster is an interesting theory, because I can see where that would be I just accidentally turned on my Siri when I said theory. That was really interesting. But I think that's an interesting theory because it feels like the hybrid middle ground between someone keeping their rank season after season and rank camping, as it's called in Overwatch, where people would play their 50 comp games to get top 500 and then not touch that account ever again. Until next season rolls around, they'd do it again. But it feels like that hybrid between doing that and also just getting shot down to 0 and saying, you're with everybody else now, try again. because I could see where that would feel a little bit infuriating as someone who, if someone, let's say I was cracked at Apex, I'm not. I am a Pred player, I'm a Masters player. Well, now I gotta go do it all over again. Like, what was that work for? So I feel like that's a nice little middle ground that I actually don't hate, the ability to rank up faster if you were higher in previous seasons.
But yeah, I know we've kind of like poked at it a couple times, but let's just talk about Overwatches for a second, because I think that is one that I know Nox and I both feel is not very, it's not a great rank experience.
Did I pull up my spreadsheet?
We've been stat tracking this season, Nox and I. So we actually have a full list of every single ranked game we've played, how many ELO we've won, how much ELO we've lost, when we've lost it, how we've done it, time of day, what hero we played, what map we were on, everything. We've been stat tracking as much info as we can, just because we are curious.
If anyone's curious, I've played 272 ranked matches this season, which is quite a lot. And I have a win rate this season of 48.9%. The most interesting thing this has told me is that actually the matchmaker is pretty 50-50 at the end of the day. I'm a little bit down, but for most of the season I was sitting at that like 52 range. I had a bad couple of last days since I've played. But
I'm at 247 games, and I'm also showing like a 50-50-ish split.
It's interesting. Yeah. Being able to, people call us nerds in the Discord for this. Whatever. Get effed. I'm having fun. It's data. The most interesting thing I think this season that I've seen is the introduction of the wide group has been really interesting on ELO and how much you're gaining and losing, because on average I'm now gaining or losing like 17 points because of my wide matches rather than that 18 to 22 that you're usually gaining. Also, I got a bone to pick real quick. This might be a little bit forward for our discussion. In terms of the Overwatch rank system, the whole uphill battle, or like you get rewarded more for winning games that you weren't supposed to win, or the consolation. So like those things are great. I like knowing whether or not I was supposed to win that game per the matchmaker. The 2 points is so abysmal and so negligible that it's...
Yeah, sorry, 5% is not making up for that.
No. But that's my hot take. Sorry, we can rewind. That was my quick bone to pick. The Overwatch rank system is so incredibly infuriating. It feels like a box you can't break out of because you're on that 50-50 split and you're playing a team game that you are truly rewarded based on your team winning or losing and nothing else. It feels like you don't have a real impact most of the time on what your ELO is. This is when I talk about how Zach said no to my really fun background for this podcast that I had whipped up. I had a fun little green screen background. It wasn't really great, it's Discord, but it said, "I swear I'm Diamond. My teammates are just bad." I know it's not my teammates all the time, but good God, it feels like that in Overwatch. It's so easy to point at your teammates and say that they're the problem because you are reliant on them for your ranked points.
Absolutely. One of the things that I was thinking about when we came up with this topic discussion, and Overwatch in particular, was how would you implement something that's more Apex-like? So like Apex awards eliminations. That's great. That game is all about getting eliminations. Last man standing. There's no questions about it. How would you even consider doing that in Overwatch? You can't do it based on the scoreboard, because the scoreboard is not the whole story. There are games that we've won. You won Sombra, I think, is a great example. You playing Sombra, you can have the lowest damage on the team. You could have the lowest damage in the lobby, but you could have the biggest impact.
Right.
If their tank can't play the game, then that's it. But on the flip side, you know, there are other things that like can be good indicators, but may not be the best way of putting into it. So like my next thought was like, oh well, percentage on point. But that's not everybody's job. So I almost think like using the on fire system to help indicate how much ELO should be gained or lost would be really interesting. Because that is a system that is supposed to incorporate, oh, well, I'm doing damage, I'm getting eliminations, I'm standing on point.
Mm-hmm. I think that's really interesting. I've never thought about that. Because I was going to add...
Mitigating damage.
Right. I have no real ideas on how to fix this rank system, to be so honest. I think that's just a flaw that team-based games are always going to have.
Oh, for sure.
Because you're right. Because let's say, for example, you based how much ELO you gained if you're playing a support character, and it's based on how much healing you're outputting. I could be heal botting on Mercy with the most heals in the lobby and doing jack shit for my team. That doesn't have a good representative of how good I am at the game.
I think the other thing to bring up is, so Paradox, you're a director for esports.
Yep.
And I'm sure that you have people in your program for Overwatch who, I'm trying to think, most of them are probably actually GM, if I had to guess.
It's a mix. So I do want to actually quickly go back to one of the points of like heal botting on Mercy and like, oh, I had the most heals in the game, right? Where in League, one of the things that's really interesting is they do have the character mastery stats, where like at the end of the game you get a ranking on how you did. You anywhere from D to S+, right? But the way that ranking is actually calculated is other people who are playing the character across all ranks and their performance on average. How did you do? Right? Having something like that for Mercy, being like, okay, yeah, you did 4,000 healing total in that, or you did 10,000 healing total in that game. You had like, I don't know, healing per minute, right? Your healing per minute was really low, but your overall healing was really high because it went long forever, huge overtimes, whatever you want to call it. Like that, those types of things and using those types of metrics might be helpful for something like that. So
I think that's really interesting, especially I think it would take a lot of thought for a game like Overwatch.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Especially with the different... Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say it'd have to come down to like healing per minute that's done on Mercy, as well as, like, I don't know, number of reses or like ultimate efficiency, right? Like I think
you have to do more damage boost on Mercy in particular.
Yeah.
Which is what brings up the interesting part. I think Mercy is one of the hardest ones to actually use in this situation because Mercy by design is so reliant on the rest of her team.
Exactly.
Like you can be blue beaming and at everyone the entire time and not do any healing. But if you're in bronze and your teammates have the mechanical skill of a cooked potato,
I think that gives the cooked potato a bad name.
Well, I was gonna say at least the cooked potato was cooking, right? Like
let him cook.
Let him cook. Exactly. Yes. Thank you. Anyways, but
no, I think that's really interesting because I think it could be a good idea, especially because League has such a... If they're able to coordinate that for the roster of 10 billion characters on League, it shouldn't be that hard to do it for a roster of 40.
Right. It's looking at multiple performances. The problem with League is that there are performance indicators that are common across particular roles. Ward score or vision score comes to mind for jungle and support, right? Okay, like, did I do good? Is my vision score, roughly around the other people in my ELO? No, it's not. Okay, well then I, didn't do a good job as support, right? Or
I remember Ward scores just pissing me off.
Yeah,
Ward scores are so rough.
Damage per minute for mid and ADC, and then top lane, it's really comes down to like lane efficiency. Did you die in lane? So tower damage if you're a split pusher, right? Stuff like that. There are enough stats that are more significant in games like League of Legends than Overwatch that could make things really challenging. So yeah. But Zach, you were asking about students and ranks in Overwatch.
Well, just something I wanted to mention was, so I know most of your students are very high ranking. Do you happen to know off the top of your head what one of your lowest ones might be?
For Overwatch, because we did end up having kind of more of a freshman team, we did have players that were in the Masters range.
Okay.
So,
but the thing is, even though they're Masters players, and as solo queue, they can't get to GM, they can't get to top 500, they're not scrimming at that level.
Right.
They're scrimming at GM, they're scrimming at top 500.
The scrimming in Overwatch is interesting because there is a lot of the times you're calling out for ELO, scrim 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, whatever it might be. At the same time, oh yeah, we scrim 4.3, we scrim 4.2, and then one team gets rolled or you roll them, right? And then it's like, if you roll them, you just blacklist them. And if you get rolled by them, well, they're going to blacklist you. So it doesn't necessarily matter when you're looking at those ELOs, but the worst one of all is what happens after 4.5. That was a big issue I remember back in Overwatch 1, where it's, you didn't say that you scrimmed 4.5. You just knew the teams that you knew, right, within the scene, especially for collegiate. But if you were scrimming contenders, or you were scrimming high tier 3, low tier 3, whatever it might be, you just had a handful of teams that, okay, or you found one team that eventually was like, okay, this is a good challenge for us. We're going to continue being scrimmage partners, and we're going to try new things on each other. And you just kind of handshook and had a mutual respect for them. So it was one of the nice things for us where we had so many teams that we could do in-house scrimmages, or if we had to, right? Because we just had so many students that were within a similar ELO system of each other, or ELO rank of each other.
Did you see that lightning?
Yes.
Oh my god. Sorry, it's storming here real bad.
Oh, good.
And we just got a nice flash from my window. Sorry.
Got a little of the audio too.
Oh, good.
No, I brought it up because it is interesting. So, I brought it up on the show before. I topped out Diamond in Overwatch, but normally I hang around in like mid to high plat. But we scrimmed a couple weeks ago against a Diamond team, if I recall.
Yep. I was actually going to bring this up. So perfect.
Yeah. And I think I was one of the higher level people. Did we have Bandito for that?
We did not.
We did not. It was you and me.
You, me, Mira.
Yeah.
Kiwi.
Yep. Oh, and Kiwi is pretty high, but
Kiwi's at Plat Diamond though.
He was also playing on the worst piece of computer he could find.
Right. And another person in our Discord who, forgive me if you're listening to this and remember playing with us, I'm sorry.
I think it was Matrix. That sound right?
Maybe.
If not,
whoever it was.
If not, we'll give him credit.
But a very Plat team. I'm pretty sure I was on DPS. I'm a gold DPS. Like I've hit Plat a couple of times on DPS, but never been able to sustain it. We went like 8-0 that night.
Yeah.
And it wasn't close. And it was one of those that
most of our individual ELOs are not even close.
Right. And it's one of those like, yeah, we can pat ourselves on the back and go, haha, we beat a Diamond team. But it backs up that fact that like once you, not saying gold is the upper and part of the upper echelon of the game, but once you hit that like high plat Diamond and you're starting to creep up to that Masters, like yes, there is a difference between the top 500 players and the Diamond players of the world. But when you're playing in a coordinated team and actually have that coordinated team, ELO is less of a matter. I even remember at one point someone during that scrim had to bow out for the last few games, and we sent out an invite to anyone we knew. Someone please come scrim with us. We need one more person. We need a breathing body at this point because we wanted to keep playing. And Bandito, who's been on the show, we actually went into his server for his high school esports team, which I believe they're probably silver gold for the most part.
Most of them are silver gold.
And one of them came and joined us.
That one who joined us was silver.
Correct.
They weren't silver, but we're going to say they're silver. Just in case it gets back to the other team.
We steamrolled them again.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a silver player on our team with a bunch of. I was playing gold DPS. Zach was on tank, so that's his strong suit in plat.
I flexed.
And I thought you played tank that night.
I did a lot of tank, but I know I did at least a couple rounds of support as well.
Sure. Go ahead, Paradox. You had a thought.
I was going to say, so I mean, the question then comes in: do you think they were trying? Do you think they, okay.
So the context of this scrim, we'll keep it really vague, just in case. One of the players on our team had previously been on that esports team and had kind of been phased out.
Got it.
So this was I'll call it a revenge tour. There was some pride on the line with this one. So I'm going to believe, and then the fact that they just alt F4'd after game 7 and didn't say anything before they left to anyone. I don't think they were happy with the results of that night.
Got it.
I think calling it revenge might be a little strong. There was a point to be proven about ELOs and how teams work together, and we proved it very effectively.
Right.
Got it.
And I mean, we pulled the stops. I've seen the top 500 players go lock Sombra so that they can TP out of spawn and then pick a character that can get back fast. Like, I was playing Sombra. Like, I was like we were doing things, but we were playing as a coordinated team that understood the game. And that's why I think, like, the ranked ladder is just such a different beast for Overwatch, because when you have two coordinated teams playing against each other, at least they're two coordinated teams. You feel like you're actually winning or you're actually losing for reasons. Whereas when you're in that ranked ladder, and even if you're 5 stacking with 5 competent people, the way that rank can be played is so fluid. There's 1,000,005 ways to play Overwatch. And that's made it, I think, the ranked. I'm not going to sit here and dog on the devs and say that they have a trash ranked system and they need to fix 5,000 things. I think it's a hard thing to do.
It's a hard thing to do, and it's gotten better. Let's give them props where it's due. When Overwatch 2 came out, the rank system was an absolute mess. Yes. And it is far better than it was.
Well, and just the fact that they had the whole thing where they were ranking placements for top 500 players into bronze 5. Like, they had some fundamental problems with the game, but that's just like icing on the cake. Like, it was.
There were so many different things that were wrong with it. I think hiding MMRs completely and entirely and just being like, here's your rank. There was no metric to go off of. You didn't ever know what was going on.
There was no dopamine hit.
I don't even think it's that. It's just you.
Oh, yes,
how can you get better at the game if you don't understand what you're doing wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there is something nice when you get that little consolation message. Here's an extra 2 points. It's not enough. But man, it's nice to know that I wasn't supposed to win that game. Even the matchmaker didn't think I was going to win it.
I also have the take that, especially for more casual gamers like us, like, we're not going to be contenders. We're not going to the Overwatch League that doesn't exist anymore. A lot of what drives people to play ranked when they're stuck in silver and they're stuck in gold and they're stuck in plat is watching that little number go up and down. I know I make jokes about the little dopamine hits, but it's such a psychological thing.
Mm-hmm.
That when the rank system came out at the start of Overwatch 2 and it was simply nothing to go off of, it gave me as a player, I took 5 months, 6 months off of Overwatch because I didn't find any enjoyment in it, because I wasn't gaining anything. Even when I lose SR, at least I could see it. And it was that drive to, well, I don't want to see it go down anymore. I have to see it go up. That's part of the ranked system, part of the reason Apex is so rewarding is because it's in the top right of your screen as you're playing the game. And as you're getting kills and as you're lasting longer and as you're moving throughout the game, that number keeps going up. And it makes you excited.
It is nice.
Yeah.
We've talked about some good. We've talked about some less great. What's the really not good? What are the rank systems that don't work? Paradox, you seem to have a lot of thoughts before the show about this.
I know. I was sharing with them. I mean, so to me, a rank system that doesn't work is when your community all get behind and say this rank system doesn't work. We're going to go make our own. So Counter-Strike, Rainbow Six, Call of Duty, Super Smash Brothers. Again, the fact that, the Super Smash Brothers rank system is the way that it is pretty deplorable. For those that may not know, with Rainbow Six and Counter-Strike, both of those are done by a third party, where essentially once you get past kind of the midpoint, what would be the equivalent of probably around platinum in Overwatch, probably around like low platinum in League now, people mostly just go to something called Face It, where there's 10 levels of Face It and you play on Face It. You get ELO directly in Face It based on how you do, a couple of other factors. You gain all the way up to basically Face It level 10, then Challenger, and then you start playing on a team. And then you get recognized by just playing on teams and typically traveling with them. The same thing happens with Call of Duty, where you kind of get to that high rank, but then eventually what you start doing is you start going to challenger events and you start trying to place in challenger events. There was one that just happened in Toronto this past weekend where I think one of my students ended up getting first in that. Yeah, he was playing for FaZe Black or something like that. So, and then you even have Smash where they have a GSP rating system that just keeps going up and up and up and up and up. You just gain more than you can lose in that system. And so eventually what ends up happening is it reaches this point where to get to the minimum level of what's considered good, you need 14 million points. And so the community just says, screw that, go to your locals, and then we'll just do community rankings. So any system where you have to rely on a third party just tells me that it's not going to be a good ranking system. It doesn't make any sense. So yeah,
I think an interesting one to throw out there is Pokemon.
Okay.
Specifically because
surprise, Zach's talking about Pokemon again.
Yes, I know. Sorry. No, I find that one interesting because the official format, VGC, is all doubles, which a lot of players love and a lot of players hate.
Yep.
It's a very polarizing style of gameplay. But officially, that is what Nintendo recognizes. So when, Wolf Glick comes out and says, I'm the greatest Pokemon player in the world, you really can't argue with him. He won the championship. But on the flip side, you've also got Smogon, and Smogon does the singles. But all of that has its own ELO system. It's very transparent, unlike VGC, which is, well, did you win the tournament? It's not quite that simple. You have to go get points to go get to Worlds, but once you win Worlds, that's it.
It's still it is still that reliance on technically an outside entity that has to rank it, even though it is an entity that owns the game. Because even in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and then in Sword and Shield, there was that whole like Master Ball ranking. You could do ranking online and have rankings online, and it's like, to me, that's the ranking system that should work. Not necessarily a global ranking that you have to go to an outside entity for. But I do.
In that one, though, it's kind of interesting because they hide a lot of the mechanics. That's got the same problem that Overwatch does.
Right.
Because I know I've never gotten there and probably never will, but when you get into the higher levels of Master Ball, it'll tell you what rank you are in the world. But you can win 3 games in a row and still be in second.
Yes.
And it won't tell you what the difference is.
Yep. So I've had students in Overwatch that are top 500, and then it's like they just keep continually trying to play to see if they can get a couple of extra points higher. And half the time, it's like they're going to spend hours playing and queuing and playing and queuing, and they're lucky if they get 14 points. I did have one student who was 6 points away from being first on the leaderboard and played for 18 hours straight to get to first on the leaderboard. It was a weekend. We'll just throw that out there.
No classes missed, we swear.
No classes missed, exactly.
I'm still 18 hours?
Yeah, 18 hours straight.
My eyes would be bleeding.
Yeah, no, they didn't leave, and they played for 8. I've had worse. Trust me. Some of my kids played like 24 hours straight, but this was literally a push to get first. And at the end of the day, he did gain 7 ELO. After 18 hours, he gained 7 to hit 1. Right? And why? At the same time, there should be a system that essentially rewards those people that are continuously progressing and doing better in the game. I do like systems that have like bottom out protection. I don't know if so. There 2 games come to mind with that, and that's Hearthstone is one in their Battlegrounds system. So Hearthstone has 2 ranking systems, and I talk a lot about Hearthstone because that's a game that I play very often. There's the standard format, which has the star format, the ranks bronze all the way up to the legends, but then their Battlegrounds, which is their auto battler, their auto chess game. Once you can gain and lose, but you can't once you hit a benchmark every 1,000 up until 6,000, you can never go below that mark. So you could go once you hit 3,000, you could go up to 3,800, but you can't go back below 3,000. And the same thing for 4,000, same thing for 5,000, same thing for 6,000. But once you hit 6,000, it's up, right? And then essentially you are like, once you hit 6,000, that's when you're considered good at the game. And then you can just go up, but you'll never go below that 6,000 mark. So it makes it really interesting where it does cause this delineation of players where there's a huge difference between 6,000 ELO and like 8,000. And then there's a massive difference between like 8,000 and 9,000. And then there's even more of like 9,000 and 9,500, right? It gets smaller and smaller and smaller where the differences between those players matter a lot more. So the max that someone's been is like 14,000, I think, in Battlegrounds for Hearthstone. So I do like systems like that. The other one is Unite, but Unite's is a little bit more unique. Once you hit Masters, it then turns into a system very similar to that, where you start at 1,200 in Masters and you pretty much go up. But if you lose, I think like 5 games at 1,200 in a row, that's when you actually drop back down in your rank. So there is a lot of protection at that bottom to kind of just help the players.
That does remind me of Apex's, both bronze and rookie, depending on where you're at. The game, I don't know how it decides. If you take a break from the game, sometimes it'll throw you back in rookie, just so it forces you to play again to prove that you're like can still play the game and are a breathing human. But when you're in bronze, what?
You know what's going on here,
right? You know which way is up, and you can pick up a gun. Like we got the basics back. But
which way?
And bronze, there's no buy-in for bronze.
Yep.
You're at 0. So technically, once you get through bronze 4, and then bronze 3, and then bronze 2, and then bronze 1, say you're bronze 1, and you hit that silver 4, like, yes, you could technically drop out of silver 4 back into bronze, but you will never drop back below bronze 1 to bronze 2 to bronze 3 because it's not possible at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that's exactly, I think it's a slight bit different because it sounds like you could probably, even if you were 3,800, you could still drop back down to 3,000.
Yes.
Which, once you're in, let's say 75% of the way through bronze 3 and you're hitting that bronze 2, you're never going to drop back below bronze 3. Once you clear that echelon, you can't, it's mathematically impossible to go back down because there's no buy-in.
Right. Yeah.
That makes sense. I know we've been oohing and ahhing over Apex's.
Because it's my favorite.
It's well done. It's really well done. It complements the gameplay. But I think one of the nice things that they do that isn't necessarily, it's not needed, but it helps, is when you rank up into a new medal. So that's every 2,400. So when you go from, for example,
it
from
changes,
bronze to silver,
it's.
Oh, does it change?
It's 2,000 for bronze. It's 2,400 for silver. It goes up. It's 500 per rank per level in the rank, and then it's 600. Mm-hmm. Silver 700.
Okay.
Gold is
point being, when you go from a medal to a medal, into the next medal, if you go from bronze to silver, they give you 300 extra RP. And the goal of that is so that even if you're in a little bit too high a lobby you have a little bit of time to start figuring it out and see if you're actually going to belong in that lobby. It's not going to immediately demote you. Kind of puts you like about the halfway through that bottom tier of that medal.
Yeah.
And there's no reason that that needs to be there. It's just nice.
Right. It's not it feels like when Overwatch added the demotion protection is such a stupid feature. I hate it, to be so honest.
It would be great if it worked for a couple of games in a row, but my God, it hurts to get that one game and then immediately the next game be demoted and be like, yep, you lost 45 ELO.
Yeah.
Well, because the demotion protection, you are still losing the ELO. It just doesn't show you that.
Yep.
Let's say you're at let's say you're trying to get, let's say you're gold 1. Let's start there. Gold 1, you hit that 0%, you're in demotion protection. Great. Even if you win the next game, you don't get 20 points. Well, you do, but now you're back to that 5. It shows you got 5 points because it already threw you negative. It already thinks you're gold 2, but it doesn't show you that. But if you lose the game, like,
I think it happened.
I think it might have happened.
We were warned of this. Nox mentioned she was in a storm. It does seem that it has happened. The storm has finally knocked out her power.
Yep. I mean, continuing the conversation with ranked demotion, just in general, I'm going to go to League of Legends because that's a game that I know very well. They usually have, it's about, you have to lose about 3 to 5 games in a row, depending on how your loss streak was before you hit 0, to then get demoted down between rankings, either platinum to gold, gold to silver, whatever it might be. But once you get demoted, you're still losing like 30 LP, their rank points, whatever it is, league points per game, but only gaining 5 to 10, right? Because of what Nox was saying, where you're so negative, you have to then reclimb back out of the ashes to try and get back to where you potentially were. So having those ranked protections are fine, but honestly, yeah, like if you're losing too much at that point, you should honestly, there should be those benchmarks for some of the lower rankings or middle rankings. And then once you actually get above average, that's when it's like, okay, no. Now you're in the real game. So
I just got a message from Nox saying, Houston, we have a problem.
I
was going to start to segue us into our real world. I just want to give Nox a second to see if she manages to make it back. It seems that her video just completely cut out for us, though, so that may not happen. Maybe just as a wrap-up question, we'll see if we can buy her a minute or two. What are some ways that you would offer to developers to potentially improve some of their ELO systems, at least from a player standpoint?
I'm a big proponent of if you're doing well in a game, there should be specific metrics that look at how well you did and therefore support you for doing better. It does become difficult if your game has trouble implementing the mercy problem, as well as, I was thinking about this too, Rocket League has a performance-based system where like a save is 50 points, a goal is 100 points, and then you can see like a point scale. But realistically, it's just how did you do in the leaderboard, not necessarily like, how much ELO you gained. But having some sort of award system that does reward you on performance base. I find the Apex one that talks about resetting the rank system interesting because League of Legends is notorious for not resetting their rank system as a 14-year-old game. So there are people who got diamond in 2014 that are trying to come back now that their kid is actually like they have a 9-year-old now who can go feed themselves versus when they were just born and they needed to take care of them from 2015 to I don't know, like 2019, right? Like they're now trying to come back to the game and they cannot play the game because they are getting diamond lobbies, and that's a huge problem. So listening to the community just a little bit and just hearing your rank woes and understanding what the community would want in terms of a ranking system, as well as just looking at what works in a lot of the different games, that's honestly the best advice I can give.
I'd agree. I think listening to the community is important in this respect because when you have a good ranked system, it makes people want to play ranked.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Overwatch has had a hidden MMR for years and years and years and years now. We all know it and we all accept it, and that's how they do their QP matches, and we're fine with it. We've never had an issue with the QP MMR for the most part. You know, yeah, it hurts when you get into that match with that crazy high level player, but at the same time, it's the QP experience. Sometimes you have matches that are people are actually insane in, and then you have matches where people really aren't. But you sign up for that and you know that it's not going to impact your ranked experience. It feels less great when you hop into a ranked game and you have a player who really isn't doing well or a player who is doing really, really well. And it doesn't feel like the game is a ranked setting anymore. It feels like you're just in another QP match.
Right. I think a good indicator of how good your game is definitely comes down to if players are willing to play casual or if they're kind of feel forced to play ranked. In Overwatch, I know, especially Overwatch 1, that was a heavy piece, is that there really wasn't a casual mode or there wasn't a casual queue, right?
No.
Quick play was basically the casual queue, but realistically, it was more for I have 20 minutes, I'm going to try and play an Overwatch game. It really wasn't for I just had a long day at work. I want to play 3 games and not have to worry or try hard, right? With League of Legends, their normals and ARAMs are casual modes that have very strong fan bases, very strong followings, and a lot of people play those modes. But even Hearthstone, another Blizzard game, you're playing ranked or you're really just not playing the game, right? There isn't a casual mode where you can just kind of try and do fun things. It's no, you're gonna play ranked and you're gonna get told like good and bad things of what you did, you know, or you're gonna get rewarded for doing good and you're gonna get punished for doing bad and you're gonna like it.
I think something we should probably actually just touch on, just because you did specifically bring up this point. Recently, Blizzard said that Overwatch quick play should be treated like ranked. It should be play to win. And it has been the reason why this season they started implementing lever penalties for quick play. They want people to treat that as a competitive-ish game mode. It just doesn't have a number assigned to it. Blizzard, stop messing up your game.
See,
well, it's interesting. It's interesting because MMR has always been reflective in quick play too.
Yes, and we did mention that. Sorry, Nox, you missed half the conversation, but welcome back.
You're fine.
Sorry.
No.
You are fine.
Look, if you're gonna play a multiplayer game, right, you need to understand it should be competitive. There should be some sort of competitive aspect. You can have fun and you can do wacky and kooky things. Haha, we're gonna play like double Junkrat, you know, like in quick. I know that's not allowed in quick play, but you understand where I'm getting at. We're gonna play off meta. We're gonna, you know, Orisa's bad, but damn it, I just got home from a hard day of work. I want to play Orisa, right? I'm going to play Orisa, and there's really nothing that you can do to stop me. At the same time, I understand where a lever is really going to ruin all because it's like you can still win with the Orisa because the other team could be also having fun and playing, I don't know, ball or something that's not meta at the time. But once
to be transparent, I don't have an issue with the lever penalties.
Okay.
I don't think those are bad. It was the fact that the reason for it was we want QP to, I believe the exact wording was retain its competitive integrity.
If you're playing a multiplayer game, regardless of if you're trying to do it to relax or not, the goal should still be to win. And if you don't have that mentality, go play a single player game.
Yes. But at the same time, you need somewhere where you can practice. You need somewhere where winning is not the be-all, end-all.
Yeah.
And I think that Blizzard has made it very clear that it is the only mentality that they want in QP. And that should be either they need to walk it back or they need to rethink.
If I go ahead and then I'll say my point.
Because where else are you supposed to go practice?
I know one thing that's been pitched in the Overwatch community to solve this issue, and I think it would be interesting. I don't know if it would work, has been to even separate quick play further. So you have your ranked, like we have now, your competitive mode. And then you have something called unranked, which will be a quick play-esque type game. There's no numbers assigned to the ranked system, but it is played in the competitive mode in which you still get attack and defend. But
which there's no right now.
Which no, we don't. If you get a quick play game and you're on defense, then you're never going to get to attack. But in this unranked, you would be able to play both sides of the game, and it could be a more competitive sphere without it being on the competitive ladder. And then you have quick play or casual or whatever you want to call it, where maybe there's no lever penalties. And it's truly people, it would delve into chaos, I think. I think it would be an interesting experiment to see what would happen to that casual mode, given that people could come and go as they please, could play whatever you want. I don't know. It's something that's been pitched.
Mm-hmm. The only reason why I even bring it up is one of the things I've noticed, and I'm curious if this has been your experience, Nox, since they've implemented QP lever penalties. I don't play as much QP.
I haven't touched a quick play game this entire season.
The only reason I have been on a QP is because we have a couple people in the server who really don't want to do the ranked experience, so I play QP with them.
Yeah. And I guess
I used to go hop in QP matches when I'd warm up and when I'd get ready, and if I was waiting for other people to hop on. I don't do that anymore because I don't want to commit to a 10-minute game when I don't know if somebody's going to pop on in 2 minutes or in 15 minutes. I don't want to be the guy who's like, yeah, I need you to wait on me.
Right. I also might be the wrong person to ask. I'm a very competitive person by nature. I don't fully understand and wrap my head around people that don't like ranked because it's ranked versus quick play, because in my head I think I do have what Blizzard wants out of a player, in which it is the same to me. It doesn't matter whether it has a number attached or it's quick play. Definitely a little more chill in quick play, but I still want to win. So I might be the wrong demographic here.
I think the difference is, so like in a ranked game, I'm never going to go play, oh gosh, what's a hero I never play? I don't play Symmetra. I'm never going to play Symmetra in ranked. I don't know that hero well enough. I don't know her kit well enough. I don't know the best ways to utilize it. I know the best ways it gets used on me, but I don't know the best way to use it.
And maybe it's
I'll happily go do that in QP.
And maybe it's because I've been playing the game long enough and I flexed long enough that, like, I can comfortably play 50% of the DPS lineup. I can comfortably play 90% of the support lineup. I don't touch tank very often, so I don't want to use that as an example. But metas, at least in gold and plat, haven't really affected me because I can play what's on meta most of the time.
The evolution of like
hard.
how any sort of MOBA-based game or any character-based game, Valorant, League of Legends, and Overwatch, and even like Apex to an extent, the way the like proper evolution is, again, okay, you do your research on the character, then you end up bringing them into some sort of training module, you bring them into casual, and then you bring them into rank. That is the expectation of how to learn how to play one of these characters. If you want to play, Twisted Fate, Tracer, anything like that, right? You start in one and you work your way up. That's the expectation, right? And from a traditional sports standpoint, that makes sense, right? If you want to learn how to be the goalie, you don't just get thrown in to goalie in as a game, right? You either, you start by practicing or going to practices, then you get thrown in at the end when it's dummy time and you're up 7-0 or you're down 7-0, right? In a soccer game.
Or when you're scrimmaging your team at practice.
Or you're scrimmaging, exactly. There's
casual.
Other opportunities to play those characters. That's what quick play should be. And I understand that people will just leave because, again, this could be my third ever game on Tracer. Or again, when you're teaching somebody new and it's their second game on Monkey, right? And it's just like, people are going to be insulting. I'm sorry, but like you gotta have tough enough skin to either take those insults, be ready for those insults, and be critical of yourself, or like just don't play the game.
Also, if you're someone that gets annoyed with people talking in chat, just turn it off.
Yeah.
To be so
Yes.
blunt.
Yeah.
People are shit. People are gonna talk shit. I've done my fair share. Like it's toxic, and it can be, and I'll admit that. Turn it off. Side note.
Just to try and wrap this up, actually, I think Apex actually has a better distinction between unranked and ranked. Nox, when we drop in ranked, are we usually the first ones out of the dropship?
I haven't been jump master a lot lately, so no.
But even when you are, generally, we're not the first people out.
No.
In unranked, are we the first people out of the dropship?
Every time. We're also dropping fight night every single time.
Because the point of unranked for us is not to win the game.
Yeah.
We'd like that. It'd be nice.
Well, and I treat unranked too. You hot drop so that when you accidentally hot drop in ranked, you can survive.
Mm-hmm. Unranked is where you learn how to play it. So and there are so many levers in Apex.
Oh yeah. Even in ranked.
Yeah, even in ranked, but like it's real bad in unranked. People get knocked and they immediately just DC.
There's been many games that we've been in a competitive mode in Apex, and let's say one of the two of us makes it out of the first team fight because we hot dropped and we run, and your banners expire and you're trying to find a crafter to make the banners, and you're trying to find a respawn beacon, and as you're in that process, the person doesn't want to sit there and wait. They leave. It happens even more so in unranked that people just
get knocked
will
immediately.
get downed. Yep, and then they'll DC. They won't even wait. But there are also leaver penalties in Apex as well. If your banner is still active, you can't leave without a penalty.
Mm-hmm.
In ranked, sorry, I should
in ranked,
specify.
not unranked.
In ranked, in unranked, you can leave.
But I also don't mind it so much in unranked.
League has always had a very strict lever penalty and ways to kind of prevent people. Once you click the escape key and then the exit button, you actually have to wait 5 seconds before you hit the exit button again, and then you actually get to leave the game.
Overwatch has implemented that recently.
Right. I think that's a good thing because, hot tempers, obviously, honestly, it should be 10 seconds, personally. But at the same time, it's across all of their individual modes. And like I said, League has their ranked, their normal, and then they have game modes such as ARAM, which for Zach, it's all random, all mid. You literally load into the game. You get told right before you load into the game so you can pick your loadout. But you're like, all right, here's 1 out of 160 characters. You're getting to play one. Good luck. Right? And everybody just gets a random character in the game. And everybody's
it's mystery heroes, but more chaotic.
Yes. And it's very fun. And honestly, the way they've generated the game mode is that it is supposed to be kind of their lower time investment game mode. That's essentially what ARAM has become, is a casual, low time investment game mode. You have 20 minutes. Well, you will definitely get an ARAM done in 20 minutes. A real game? Maybe. Probably not, but maybe. An ARAM? Absolutely. 20 minutes, you're good. Right? So that is a game mode that you do see a lot of people type more in chat, where it is, wow, way to be tryharding in ARAM, and like making fun of people tryharding like in the fun game mode versus normals and rank. It's like, haha, easy clap, beat you, because there is an all chat button, obviously, or like bot diff, jungle diff. It would be the same thing as being like tank diff in Overwatch. So it is interesting to kind of see where, even though there isn't a rank system, the communities typically still are hyper competitive and will make sure that other people know about it, but the problems that I've always heard from with like quick play is that there isn't a reward for it. And that's why people don't like playing quick play or haven't liked playing quick play in the past.
Again, I don't have an issue with the lever penalty. I don't think that's the inherent issue. I don't understand why the lever penalty for quick play influences your season penalties for competitive. If you get banned 10 times from quick play, you can no longer play competitive.
Are you 100% sure on that?
I was pretty sure.
I want to double check that.
I'm happy to say I'm wrong.
The way I understood it was that your quick play lever penalties don't influence your competitive lever penalties, but your competitive lever penalties impact your quick play.
My understanding was that if
it
you
was
leave
optional or opposite.
Well, if you leave any game, QP or ranked, if you do it 2 times in a season, you can no longer play competitive. If you leave a quick play game, you get that, what is it, like a 3-minute timer for the first one? 5-minute timer? You still can't join you can't join a competitive game for that 5 minutes. That's fine. No problem with that. None whatsoever. But especially in a game like Overwatch where we have server errors all the time, we have client errors fairly often. I've got to leave this game this season. It has nothing to do with me. My whole computer I was staring at the loading screen. Loading screen was loading too. I had graphics, they were all moving, I had all my audio. Couldn't see the game. And that's not an uncommon problem. I mean, heck, Apex has weird loading errors too. I'm sure League does. Actually, League's old enough, they probably actually worked through them.
This graphic is really confusing. I would have to do some more research and read the blog post probably. For competitive play, it does say 1 game for competitive, 1 game left, 15-minute ban, 2 games left, 2 hours banned, 3 games left, 8 hours banned, 4 games left, 20 hours banned. If you leave 5 games, a competitive season ban, and then 10 games left throughout the season is a competitive season ban. But it's weird because competitive, they assign these out of your most recently played games per what the graphic says, but on the unranked side, it only assigns you unranked penalties based out of your last 20 games played, but those last 20 games can also include ranked games, not just your quick play games.
Thanks, Blizzard. Clear and concise communication, as always.
My biggest complaint is that the unranked plays into your competitive. If unranked had its own set of lever penalties, that's fine. But if it's starting to impact my ability to play competitive, I think that's where it gets a little bit crazy. But I think you were kind of getting to that same point earlier.
Yeah. Yep. But we should probably wrap up our conversation.
We should. This one's getting long, but that's okay.
We'll transfer
into our last segment, in which it should be pretty quick tonight. There's only 3 of us. Our real world segment, where we talk about things happening in our lives other than video games, although sometimes they are video games. Depends on the day. But we can talk about books we're reading, music we're listening to, concerts we're going to attend, movies we're watching, TV shows we're watching, all that good stuff. Zach, kick us off.
I finished reading all of the ACOTAR books that have been released. That's Court of Thorns and Roses.
Ooh, yay!
Enjoying my fairy split. I'm not going to go too much into it. I've enjoyed the books very, very, very much. Thank you very much, Nox, for the recommendation, along with Foon, who's also in the server. I'm more just like, I've been so happy reading. It's been such a long time since I've been able to sit down and read books. I went and counted earlier. I've read 15 books this year. Feels nice.
Beating you, I've read 17.
Careful, I'm gonna catch up, I think. Real fast.
You might. My next one's a monster.
Yeah, I've got a couple that are not that long. Yeah, it is nice though to just get to sit down and read. It's been so long. Especially once you get out of school, it's hard to find time.
I think it's been easier to find time since I've left school.
Okay, at least with my job
path. Okay.
You know, when I get people who are being like, yeah, you can do a 38-hour shift, right? Yeah, okay,
yeah, right.
Cool. At that point, it's like, I hope I have time to shower. Paradox, what do you got?
So there is a big jazz festival that happens in my state every year. It's called the Newport Jazz Festival. It's well known, highly recognized, all that stuff. Never gone, even though lived here all my life. I
would have expected to.
I know, right? As someone who used to be a jazz musician in high school, was, did jazz band all throughout college, used his music to travel and stuff like that, played at a bunch of different venues, never went, never thought really about going, always heard about it, always was interested in it. And I finally bought tickets after, one of my friends wanted to go, one of the people I know wanted to go, and I was like, yeah, sure, let's get tickets and let's go this year. So I will be doing that in August, and it should be really interesting just because, like I said, I've never gone, and it's historical and sounds really cool.
I'm a little jealous.
Yeah. Tickets were kind of expensive. I mean, as someone who thinks concert tickets are really expensive to begin with, and again, I think I've gone to maybe 3 conferences total in my life, like music conferences. The 3-day pass was $300. I know that doesn't sound bad for a 3-day.
Given how big a festival that is and the types of artists that are there.
Exactly.
It's actually really reasonable.
Right. It's still holy shit, that's $300, to me, it's but at the same time, it's kind of yeah, okay, no, that's not that bad. So
how many hours is the festival each day?
That is a great question, and I was trying to look that up on the side as I was going to present this, because I was like, oh, that sounds cool. It looks like it's almost 6 hours a day, so it seems like it's really, really, really long.
But still, fine. Even at that, you're spending $100 a day. Basically, you're spending, what is that, like
parking starts at 8.
Hour?
Gates open at 10. Music starts at 11 a.m. And then beer and wine starts at noon, which is hilarious that they don't.
You guys are drinking like Wisconsinites. Yeah, day drinking.
But yeah, Andre 3000 is going to be playing. I'm trying to think of other names that people may know.
Davis isn't going to be there anymore, right?
No. Elvis Costello is there, who's pretty well known. Artemis is there. I'm literally looking at the event lineup as I'm pulling it. But most of the other ones, people, unless you're really into jazz, they're not going to know. But it should be interesting.
I'm going to have to take a look later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll counter real quick. There's a music festival out in Iowa that happens in the summer, and it's called Hinterland. My friends were trying to get us to go. You're buying camping passes too, because you stay on grounds for 3 days. That was over $1,000. Now, granted, that's people like Hosiers headlining one day, so you're seeing crazy artists that their tickets already are expensive. But yeah, $300 sounds like a sweet little deal for that.
I'm wishing I had actually done a Warped Tour at some point.
Right. Summerfest in Milwaukee is also pretty good. That's usually a pretty good bang for your buck than in Wisconsin in the summer. It's a pretty good fest that happens over 3 weeks, but it's a little bit different on pricing. Anyway, my stuff. I finally get to talk about books again because I got to read a little bit. I finally finished Famine. We did it. We did it, Reddit. We read it. We done it. It was pretty good. It was probably my favorite so far out of the series. I've read 3 out of the 4 now. the second one, War, still has a special place in my heart. I really did enjoy that story. But this one was really entertaining, had a nice little twist at the end that I wasn't expecting. Good stuff. And then I was faced with a dilemma. There's a fourth book. It's actually right here. I got my new bookshelf next to my desk now, so I can reach for my books. Death is the fourth book. In theory, I read that one next, right? Well, I have a best friend down where I went to college who is also a big reader like me. We tend to read the same books. We update each other. And she had read a book called A Little Life recently. It is a monster of a book. And her words to me was, it was such an emotionally taxing book through and through that even if she explained to me all the events of the book, that it would not live up to the impact it will have when I read it. So I took a little break from my stupid post-apocalyptic romance books, and I'm reading A Little Life now. I'm gonna not try to pronounce this author's name. It's Hanya Y, because I'll butcher it. This is very out of my comfort zone. It's not fantasy. It's not romance. It's about 4 college roommates as they grow up and the kind of their life through their relationships and their struggles with mental health, substance abuse, things like that. I'm annotating this one. I look like a crazy person as I'm writing all over pages.
Those are small words.
Also, this book, this is my favorite one. I know I'm rambling. This book is 500 pages, 525. And next to each other, they look really similar, right? Right. This book is 800 pages. It's Bible paper. So it's a monster. My friend told me that it's very character driven, so I'm annotating to keep track of characters and learn more about them. But I'll keep updated on that one. I'm very excited, and then I'll return to my goofy little silly post-apocalyptic romance with the 4 horsemen someday. So it's been a good time, and I've had a little bit more time to read now that the school year is over and my job has calmed down. It's been a very wonderful time around these parts. But yeah, that's my little book corner for your week. Anyway, thank you to everyone who joined us for this episode. We really do hope you enjoyed our discussion today. We release these episodes weekly, but if that's not often enough for you, you can come join us over in the Snowflake Sanctuary Discord server. In the description are going to be links to join, so feel free to click that and come over and say hi. If you would like to offer your own insight, have any ideas for what you want to hear, or feel like we sound like a cool group of people to be around, like I said, click that link. Thank you again to Paradox for joining us this evening, and thank you to you for listening to us, and we hope to see you in the next one. Bye!